Chosen one, no one on earth has what you have. Not your exact sensitivity, not your exact discernment, not your exact scars, not your exact compassion, not your exact way of seeing what others miss, feeling what others hide, and surviving what others never knew you carried. For years, you may have thought these pieces of you were random. You may have called them weakness, overthinking, loneliness, intensity, or confusion. But what if they were never random at all? What if God was arranging a sacred combination inside you, piece by piece, season by season, wound by wound, lesson by lesson? This is why you could not fit into ordinary places. This is why copying someone else never worked. This is why certain people misunderstood you, drained you, or walked away when they could no longer access the version of you they preferred. God did not give you a common pattern. He gave you a configuration. And in this message, you are going to understand why your life was shaped so differently, why your gifts had to be hidden for a season, and why the exact thing you tried to tone down may be the very thing heaven is now calling forward. So stay with this until the end, because what is coming is not just encouragement. You are going to see why your sensitivity was never weakness, why your isolation was not wasted, why certain people could not recognize what God placed in you, and why your gifts only begin to make sense when you stop looking at them one by one and start seeing the whole combination. And before this is over, there is a deeper truth about the way your mind, your spirit, and your God-given ability were designed to work together. That truth may explain why you have felt blocked for so long, even though something powerful has always been inside you. This is not a casual message, because if these words are reaching the part of you that has been tired, confused, or quietly asking God why you are so different, then I want you to listen carefully. You were never random. Your life may have looked scattered from the outside. One season of rejection here, one season of isolation there, one strange ability you could never explain, one deep wound that never seemed to leave you the same, one gift that people praised when it helped them, but criticized when it made them uncomfortable. From the ground, it looked like pieces, but from heaven, it was a pattern. You thought your sensitivity was separate from your discernment. You thought your compassion was separate from your endurance. You thought your pain was separate from your purpose. You thought your strange knowing was separate from your calling. But God does not waste design. He does not place depth in you for no reason. He does not let you notice what others miss just to make your life harder. He does not give you a heart that feels deeply just so you can be overwhelmed by the world. He does not allow you to survive things that should have made you bitter, only for that survival to mean nothing. There is a combination inside you, and the first sign of that combination is not what you do well. It is what has always made you feel different. You have always noticed things, not always loudly, not always with perfect words, but somewhere deep inside, you could feel when something was off. You could walk into a room and sense heaviness before anyone spoke. You could hear a person say one thing and feel another truth sitting underneath their words. You could tell when a smile was hiding pain. You could feel when someone's energy changed. You could sense distance before it became obvious. And for a long time, you may have blamed yourself for that. You may have thought, maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe I read too much into things. Maybe I am too intense. Maybe I need to stop feeling everything so deeply. But chosen one, what if your sensitivity was not the problem? What if the real problem was that you were surrounded by people who did not know how to honor a gift they could not understand? Because some people can only understand what can be measured quickly. They understand talent when it performs. They understand intelligence when it produces results. They understand kindness when it benefits them. But they do not always understand discernment. They do not always understand spiritual weight. They do not always understand why you need silence after certain conversations, why your body feels tired after being around certain people, why your spirit pulls back before your mind has a full explanation. They called it moodiness. God called it awareness. They called it weakness. God called it tenderness. They called it suspicion. God called it discernment. They called it being too much. God called it depth. And this is where you must stop letting people with no language for your gift become the final authority over your identity. Because people can only name you from the level of their understanding. If they do not understand spiritual sensitivity, they will call you dramatic. If they do not understand discernment, they will call you negative. If they do not understand calling, they will call you difficult. If they do not understand boundaries, they will call you cold when you finally stop bleeding for people who never planned to heal. But heaven has another name for what you carry. It is not confusion. It is not weakness. It is not too much. It is a sacred combination, and that combination has been showing itself in ways you may have ignored. The first way is through your ability to sense what is hidden. You may not always know how you know. You may not always have proof at first, but something inside you recognizes patterns. You notice tone. You notice timing. You notice the sentence someone avoids. You notice the shift in a room. You notice when a person is speaking from love and when they are speaking from control. This does not mean you are meant to judge everyone. It means you are meant to move with wisdom. Your gift was never given so you could become suspicious of the whole world. It was given so you would not be easily led away from what God is building in you. The second way is through your emotional depth. There are moments when you feel things before you understand them. A heaviness, a sudden sadness, a strange peace, a pull toward prayer, a quiet knowing that something is changing. Sometimes you cannot explain it to anyone because the language arrives later than the feeling. This is why shallow living has never satisfied you. You can enjoy simple things, you can laugh, you can be normal in many ways. But deep down, you know you were not created to live only on the surface. Something in you searches for meaning. Something in you listens for God in the silence. Something in you knows that life is not just about surviving, consuming, working, pleasing people, and disappearing. There is a call beneath your ordinary days. The third way is through the tiredness you could not explain. Not laziness, not weakness, not a lack of discipline. A deeper kind of tiredness. The kind that comes from carrying emotional weight, spiritual pressure, and unspoken responsibility for too long. The kind that sleep helps, but does not always fully remove. The kind that shows up when you have been absorbing too much, giving too much, explaining too much, and shrinking too much. And I want to say this gently. Some of your exhaustion did not come from doing too little. It came from carrying what was never meant to be carried without wisdom. You carried people's moods. You carried family tension. You carried the fear of being misunderstood. You carried the pressure to be strong. You carried the responsibility of keeping peace in rooms where others refused to be honest. But your gift was not meant to turn you into a dumping ground for everyone else's chaos. Your compassion needs discernment. Your discernment needs peace. Your strength needs rest. Your calling needs boundaries. This is part of the combination. The fourth way is through your strange relationship with isolation. You may have spent seasons feeling hidden, overlooked, or forgotten. You watched other people move ahead. You watched doors open for people who did not seem to carry the same weight. You watched people get celebrated for things you had been doing quietly for years. And somewhere inside, you wondered if God saw you. He did. But hidden does not always mean rejected. Sometimes hidden means protected. Sometimes hidden means unfinished. Sometimes hidden means God is forming something that cannot survive premature exposure. Look at how often God forms people in quiet places before public places. David had hidden years before the throne. Joseph had painful years before the palace. Esther had preparation before her moment of courage. The pattern is not punishment before purpose. The pattern is formation before release. And you need to hear this. Your gift was not hidden because it was weak. It was hidden because it was still being formed. There were parts of you that needed healing before visibility. There were motives that needed purification before influence. There were attachments that needed breaking before assignment. There were voices you needed to stop obeying before your own voice could become clear. Because if God had exposed your gift too early, you might have handed it to the wrong people. You might have used it to earn love. You might have poured it into places that only wanted access, not alignment. You might have confused being needed with being called. And that is why some doors closed. That is why some relationships changed. That is why certain people could not stay. Not because you had no value, but because they were connected to a version of you that could not carry what God is bringing forward now. The fifth way is through your inability to fully become someone else. You tried to move like others, speak like others, build like others, heal like others, believe like others. You studied what worked for them. You copied their pace. You copied their confidence. You copied their structure. And for a moment, it may have looked like it should work. But inside, something felt off. Not because they were wrong, because they were not you. A key has one shape because it opens one lock. But a sacred combination has many turns because it opens something hidden. That is why your life has taken more turns than you expected. Your patience is part of the code. Your pain is part of the code. Your tenderness is part of the code. Your discernment is part of the code. Your ability to keep believing after disappointment is part of the code. Your refusal to become cruel after being wounded is part of the code. You are not simple because your assignment is not simple. You are not easy to categorize because God did not design you for a small box. You are not behind because your path has more pieces. And this is the truth that may begin to set you free. You do not need to become less deep to be useful. You do not need to become less sensitive to be strong. You do not need to become louder to be powerful. You do not need to become colder to be wise. You do not need to become someone else to be chosen. God knows exactly what He placed in you. He knows the tenderness. He knows the fire. He knows the tears you never explained. He knows the thoughts you could not say out loud. He knows the moments you helped people while quietly needing help yourself. He knows the times you walked away, not because you stopped loving, but because staying would have destroyed the part of you He was trying to heal. And He knows how many times you asked, "Why am I like this? Why do I feel so much? Why do I see so much? Why do I care so deeply? Why can't I just move on like everyone else? Why do I feel called to something I cannot fully name?" Chosen one, the answer is not that you are broken. The answer is that you are carrying a combination you have not fully understood yet. And because you have not understood it, you may have spent years using your gifts separately. You used your compassion without discernment, and it drained you. You used your discernment without confidence, and you doubted yourself. You used your strength without rest, and it exhausted you. You used your voice without safety, and people punished you for telling the truth. You used your light in places that preferred darkness, and then wondered why you felt attacked. But when these gifts begin to work together, everything changes. Your compassion becomes wise. Your discernment becomes peaceful. Your voice becomes steady. Your sensitivity becomes guidance. Your endurance becomes authority. Your pain becomes language. Your hidden years become preparation. This is why the enemy of your purpose has not only tried to make you suffer, it has tried to make you misunderstand yourself. Because if you misunderstand yourself, you will misuse your gift. If you misuse your gift, you will exhaust your spirit. And if you exhaust your spirit, you will begin to think God gave you too much, when the truth is, you were never taught how to carry what He gave you. That changes now, not all at once, not through pressure, not through pretending you have everything figured out. It changes when you stop rejecting the pieces. The sensitive part of you is not an accident. The discerning part of you is not an accident. The wounded part of you is not useless. The quiet part of you is not powerless. The part of you that still hopes is not foolish. The part of you that refuses to settle is not prideful. The part of you that keeps reaching for God, even after seasons of silence, is not weak. It is evidence. Evidence that something in you survived. Evidence that something in you is still listening. Evidence that something in you was designed to respond to heaven in a way not everyone understands. And there is another layer to this. Because your gift is not only emotional, it is not only spiritual in the way people usually talk about spirituality. There is also something happening in the way your mind was designed to perceive, focus, connect, and receive insight. There are God-given abilities inside the human mind that most people lose touch with as life becomes heavier, louder, and more driven by survival. The ability to enter flow, the ability to sense direction, the ability to connect ideas, the ability to recognize patterns, the ability to feel awake, clear, and aligned from the inside. For some of you, that ability used to feel natural. Maybe when you were younger, you learned quickly, you imagined deeply, you felt connected to life in a way that was hard to explain. Ideas came easier, wonder came easier, faith came easier. Then life happened. Pressure happened, disappointment happened, noise happened. And slowly, the sharpness became fog. The wonder became survival. The flow became heaviness. But what if that part of you is not gone? What if it is dormant? What if God placed something in you that has been waiting for the right season, the right healing, the right understanding, and the right alignment to come alive again? We will come back to that. Because before you can understand what is being awakened, you must understand why it had to be protected. This is where many people misunderstand the life of a chosen one. They think if God gave you a gift, everything should become easy. But often, the opposite happens first. The gift attracts pressure. The gift attracts misunderstanding. The gift attracts tests. The gift forces you to grow into the character required to carry it. Because a gift without character can destroy the person carrying it. A voice without humility can become noise. Discernment without love can become harsh. Compassion without boundaries can become self-abandonment. Strength without surrender can become control. So God did not just give you gifts. He formed the vessel. He allowed seasons that taught you patience. He allowed silence that taught you listening. He allowed rejection that taught you not to build your identity on applause. He allowed endings that taught you not every connection is covenant. He allowed hiddenness that taught you to be faithful when no one was clapping. That does not mean every painful thing was good. It means God is wise enough to use what tried to break you. And this is why you are still here. Not because it was easy. Because grace kept finding you. Because even when you were tired, something in you would not fully let go. Even when you were confused, something in you kept listening. Even when you were disappointed, something in you still believed there was more. That something is not random. It is part of the combination. And the reason this matters so much is because the season ahead of you will require you to stop calling your design a disorder. Stop calling your depth a problem. Stop calling your discernment paranoia. Stop calling your compassion weakness. Stop calling your hiddenness failure. Stop calling your difference rejection. God was not making a copy. He was forming a vessel. And the vessel had to be shaped in a way that matched the assignment. This is why your life has had unusual turns. This is why your relationships have revealed so much. This is why you could not stay in environments that once felt normal. This is why certain conversations now drain you. This is why the old version of you no longer fits, even when part of you misses the comfort of being understood by people who never truly saw you. You are not becoming difficult. You are becoming clear. You are not becoming cold. You are becoming guarded. You are not losing yourself. You are losing the false self you built to survive. And underneath that false self is someone God has known the whole time. Someone with a rare combination of gifts. Someone who can see and still love. Someone who can feel and still stand. Someone who can hurt and still heal. Someone who can be hidden and still remain faithful. Someone who can be misunderstood and still refuse to become bitter. That is not ordinary. But do not confuse rare with easy. because rare gifts require rare stewardship. And this is why the next part matters. You are going to understand that the pain did not create your gift. The rejection did not invent your calling. The loneliness did not make you chosen. Those things only revealed, trained, and purified what God had already placed inside you. Before they misunderstood you, God knew you. Before they rejected you, God formed you. Before they named you wrong, God called you with intention. And before you ever questioned why you were different, heaven had already seen the full design. Your gift was not hidden because it was weak. It was hidden because it was unfinished. And unfinished does not mean unworthy. It means God was still shaping what you would have ruined if you had been forced into visibility too soon. That is why some of the delays that hurt you were actually mercy. Some of the doors that closed were actually protection. Some of the people who walked away were actually being removed from the room before they could touch what God was still forming. Some of the silence that confused you was not absence, it was preparation, because the gift inside you was never born from the wound. The wound revealed it. The wound trained it. The wound purified it. But the wound did not create it. Before anyone rejected you, God knew what He placed in you. Before anyone misunderstood you, God had already designed the way your spirit would see. Before anyone called you too much, heaven had already measured the depth you would need for the assignment ahead of you. This is important because if you believe your pain created your gift, you will always be afraid that healing will take your gift away. You will think, if I stop hurting, will I stop being deep? If I stop struggling, will I stop being useful? If I stop carrying everyone, will I lose my purpose? If I finally become peaceful, will I become ordinary? No, chosen one. Your gift is not your wound. Your wound was the classroom. Your gift was already in you. The pain taught you how to recognize suffering. The betrayal taught you how to recognize falsehood. The isolation taught you how to hear God without needing a crowd to confirm Him. The delay taught you not to worship speed. The misunderstanding taught you not to build your identity on human approval. But God placed the original seed in you before any of that happened. And I hear this strongly for someone listening right now. God did not make you different to punish you. He made you different because He trusted you with something rare. That is why your life could not follow a common pattern. That is why ordinary explanations never fully explained you. That is why people could describe one part of you, but never the whole of you. They could say you were kind, but kindness was only one piece. They could say you were sensitive, but sensitivity was only one piece. They could say you were strong, but strength was only one piece. They could say you were wise, but wisdom was only one piece. The truth is, God did not give you one gift. He gave you a combination. There is a seer in you, not someone who walks around claiming to know everything, not someone who judges people from pride, but someone who notices, someone who can sense patterns, someone who can feel when something is not aligned, someone who hears what is not being said, someone who knows when a door looks attractive, but the spirit behind it is wrong. That gift has made you uncomfortable at times, because you have known things before you had evidence. You have felt warnings before people admitted the truth. You have sensed endings before they happened. You have felt a shift in someone's spirit before their behavior changed. And because you did not always know how to explain it, you sometimes doubted yourself. But your discernment was not given to make you suspicious. It was given to keep you aligned. There is also a wounded healer in you. You understand pain differently because you have met it personally. You do not comfort people with empty words. You do not look at brokenness from a distance. When someone is grieving, confused, abandoned, ashamed, or exhausted, something in you knows how to sit near that kind of pain without rushing it, mocking it, or trying to fix it too quickly. That is rare, because many people want to be helpers, but they cannot handle the weight of another person's truth. You can, but this is also why you must be careful, because when a wounded healer does not have boundaries, They begin to bleed into every person they try to help. They confuse compassion with access. They confuse love with exhaustion. They confuse being needed with being assigned. God is healing that in you now. He is not removing your compassion. He is teaching your compassion how to stand beside wisdom. There is a light bearer in you. You may not always feel bright. You may not always feel strong. You may not always feel like your presence matters. But there are rooms where your presence changes the atmosphere. There are people who feel calmer when you enter. There are conversations that become more honest because you are there. There are dark places where you did not have to say much, yet something about your spirit reminded people that hope was still possible. That light is not performance. It is not personality. It is not the need to be seen. It is something God placed in you that comes through even when you feel tired. That is why certain people were drawn to you before they understood you. But it is also why certain people resisted you. Because light does not only comfort. Light reveals. And not everyone wants to be revealed. There is a bridge in you. You can understand different kinds of people. You can stand between worlds. You can see more than one side. You can translate feelings into language. You can bring peace where others bring division. You can connect ideas, stories, wounds, and truths that others keep separated. This is one reason you have often felt pulled in different directions. You were not made with a simple inner world. You were made with range. You can be deep and practical, gentle and strong, spiritual and grounded, quiet and powerful, broken before, but not broken now, soft in heart, but not weak in spirit. That range is not confusion. It is part of the bridge. And there is a voice in you. Maybe it has been quiet. Maybe it has been buried under fear. Maybe you learned to swallow your words because speaking the truth once cost you something. Maybe you decided it was safer to observe, safer to help in silence, safer to let others misunderstand you than to explain what God was showing you. But a voice does not disappear just because it has been silenced. It waits, and when God heals the fear around it, it returns with authority. Your voice may not sound like everyone else's. It may not be loud in the way the world celebrates. It may not be polished in the way people expect. But it carries something real. It carries language for what others feel but cannot say. It carries truth without cruelty. It carries comfort without denial. It carries correction without hatred. That is why the enemy of your purpose tried to make you ashamed of speaking. Because if you never speak, someone assigned to your voice may never hear the words that help them get free. Do you see it now? The seer notices. The wounded healer understands. The light bearer shifts the room. The bridge connects what was separated. The voice gives language to what was buried. And all of these gifts together form something no one else carries in the exact same way. This is why comparison has been so painful for you. You were comparing your sacred combination to someone else's single visible gift. You looked at the person who speaks better and thought you were behind. You looked at the person who moves faster and thought you were delayed. You looked at the person who seems more confident and thought you were not ready. You looked at the person who is already visible and thought God forgot you, but you were not watching the same kind of assignment. A person with one visible gift may move quickly because their path is simple, but when God is forming a combination, He must teach each part how to work with the others. Your discernment had to learn love. Your compassion had to learn boundaries. Your voice had to learn courage. Your sensitivity had to learn stability. Your strength had to learn surrender. Your patience had to learn hope. Your faith had to learn how to survive silence. What looked like delay was calibration. What looked like isolation was protection. What looked like rejection was separation. What looked like loss was clearing. What looked like silence was instruction. And what looked like being forgotten was God making sure you would not enter the next season with the wrong identity. This is why copying other people never worked for long. Not because they were wrong, because they were carrying a different code. Their rhythm was not your rhythm. Their assignment was not your assignment. Their method was not your method. Their door was not your door. Their oil was not your oil. You cannot unlock your calling with someone else's key. You cannot carry your assignment with someone else's voice. You cannot steward your gift with someone else's boundaries. You cannot walk your path while constantly measuring your pace against someone who was never asked to carry your combination. And I want you to let that settle inside you. Not as pressure, ad permission. You are allowed to stop competing with people God never told you to imitate. You are allowed to stop shrinking your depth because someone else's simplicity gets praised faster. You are allowed to stop rushing a process that God is using to make your gift safe, steady, and mature. You are allowed to stop apologizing for needing a different kind of path, because God is not confused about you. He knows how He made you. He knows why He made you. And He knows the exact place where the combination inside you will finally make sense. But before that place becomes visible, you need clarity. Not the kind of clarity that comes from forcing every answer. The kind that comes from paying attention to the patterns God has already allowed your life to reveal. So as you listen, do this inside your mind. Do not move. Do not write anything down if you cannot. Just let these questions pass through your spirit like light moving across a quiet room. What do people keep coming to you for, even when you feel unqualified? What kind of pain do you understand without needing a long explanation? What do you notice that others tend to miss? What drains you so deeply that your spirit feels crowded afterward? What brings a quiet fire back into your heart, even when you are tired? These questions are not random. They are a map, because your gift often hides in the place where your burden, your ability, your compassion, your frustration, and your holy energy meet. If people always come to you when they need truth, there may be a voice in you. If people always come to you when they are broken, there may be a wounded healer in you. If you always notice patterns before others do, there may be a seer in you. If you feel most alive when you are creating order, language, peace, or direction out of confusion, there may be a builder or a bridge in you. If you feel drained when people demand access without honor, that may reveal where your boundaries must become stronger. And this is where many chosen ones miss it. They think their calling is only found in what feels easy. But sometimes, your calling is revealed by what makes you ache. Not every ache is an assignment, but some burdens keep returning because God placed inside you a grace to respond. That does not mean you are supposed to save everyone. It means you are supposed to learn where your gift is assigned and where it is only being consumed. Because there is a difference. When your gift is assigned, it may stretch you, but it does not destroy your spirit. When your gift is consumed, it leaves you empty, resentful, confused, and disconnected from God. When your gift is assigned, there is grace, even when it is hard. When your gift is consumed, there is pressure, guilt, and emotional debt. When your gift is assigned, your obedience produces peace. When your gift is consumed, your availability becomes a cage. That is why God is not only revealing your gift, He is teaching you how to carry it. And there is another layer to carrying it that many people never talk about. Your spiritual sensitivity is connected to the condition of your inner world. When your mind is trapped in survival, when your nervous system is always bracing, when your thoughts are crowded with fear, shame, regret, and noise, even a real gift can feel muted. You can have discernment and still feel foggy. You can have calling and still feel blocked. You can have creativity and still feel empty. You can have deep intuition and still feel disconnected from the signal. Not because God took the gift away, but because the instrument carrying the gift has been under pressure for too long. Think of it like a radio. The music may still be playing, but if the dial is stuck between stations, all you hear is static. Many of you have lived in that static for years. You feel there is more inside you, but you cannot always access it. You know you were meant for deeper focus, clearer insight, stronger intuition, more creative flow, and a more awake way of living. But pressure has made your mind heavy. Disappointment has made your spirit guarded. Modern life has trained your attention to scatter. And slowly, the part of you that once felt bright, fast, imaginative, and connected began to feel dormant. This is where science and spiritual wisdom begin to touch. There are states of the human brain connected to focus, insight, learning, intuition, and flow. One of the most powerful is called gamma. Some describe it as a super brainwave because it is associated with moments when the mind becomes clear, connected, and deeply awake. And for a chosen one, this matters. Because many of you remember a time, maybe when you were younger, when your mind felt more open, you learned quickly, you imagined easily, you sensed things deeply. You were curious, creative, and strangely connected to life. Then, somewhere along the way, the noise of the world, the pressure to survive, the wounds, the stress, and the constant distraction began to bury that natural state. The gift was still there, but the signal became harder to hear. And this is why I want to share something carefully. This is not a magic solution. It does not replace prayer. It does not replace obedience. It does not replace healing, discipline, wise decisions, or the inner work God is asking you to do. But for those who feel led, there is a 7-minute audio technology called the Genius Song, created around the principle of brain entrainment, designed to help guide the brain toward that gamma state, connected with focus, flow, and inner clarity. The reason I mention it here is not because everyone needs the same tool. I mention it because some of you have not lost your gift. You have been trying to hear it through static. The Genius Song is presented as a simple daily audio ritual. You use headphones. You listen for 7 minutes. No complicated practice. No long meditation. No need to force your mind into silence. The purpose is to support the mind in returning to a clearer state, so the gifts God placed in you are not buried under mental fog, pressure, and survival noise. I heard a story about a teacher in Texas, 43 years old, who had spent years helping other people grow while feeling like her own mind was running at a fraction of its real capacity. She described it as if her brain was operating at 30%. After using the 7-minute ritual for several weeks, she said ideas began coming back naturally. Decisions she had delayed for a year became clear in a single morning. Now hear me clearly. That does not mean every person will have the same experience in the same way, but it does point to something important. Sometimes the issue is not that your gift is gone. Sometimes the issue is that your inner signal needs recalibration. And I know some of you may be thinking, I have tried so many things already. I have tried meditation. I have tried healing sounds. I have tried practices that promised transformation, and nothing really changed. I understand that. But this is not being framed as wishful thinking or empty motivation. The idea behind brain entrainment is that sound can guide the brain towards certain frequencies. The Genius Song was created around that principle, specifically around gamma, the state connected with focus, insight, and flow. It is not about forcing yourself to be spiritual. It is about supporting the instrument through which your spiritual and mental gifts operate. The original price is $49, but through the special link connected to this message, it is currently available for $39. It also comes with 4 bonuses, including an audio track for children, a classic book connected to creating a better financial future, a guided visualization for your ideal life, and an infographic of habits to help you build the future you are praying for. And it comes with a money-back guarantee. So if you explore it and feel it is not for you, there is a way to step back without carrying that risk. But please be careful. There are fake versions and copycat products using the name Genius Song. Some are just ordinary audio files without the real brain entrainment technology embedded inside. Do not search for it randomly on Amazon, Spotify, or anywhere else, and assume it is the same thing. If you feel led to explore the 7-minute ritual, use the official link placed in the description and the pinned comment of this video. That is the way to make sure you receive the original version, the bonuses, and the guarantee. And again, this is not pressure. Only investigate it if your spirit feels drawn to it, because the deeper message is still this: God placed something in you that deserves to be carried with clarity. Whether you use that tool or not, do not ignore the fact that your mind, your spirit, and your gifts are connected. A crowded mind can make a real calling feel distant. A wounded heart can make a real gift feel dangerous. A life full of wrong access can make a real assignment feel exhausting. That is why God is not just awakening your gift. He is restoring the vessel that carries it. And now we come to the larger truth. The combination inside you is not only for your personal success. It is not just so you can feel special. It is not just so you can say you are different. It is not just so you can prove people wrong, even though some people will see what they failed to recognize. The combination is the assignment. Your seer gift is not only for you to avoid danger, it is to help bring clarity where there is confusion. Your wounded healer gift is not only for you to understand pain, it is to help others believe healing is possible. Your light bearer gift is not only for you to shine, it is to remind dark places that darkness is not final. Your bridge gift is not only for you to understand many worlds, it is to connect what has been divided. Your voice gift is not only for you to express yourself, it is to speak what has been trapped in silence. This is why your life had to be shaped differently. A simple assignment may require one gift, but a redemptive assignment requires a combination. Joseph did not only need dreams, he needed endurance, wisdom, forgiveness, administration, and timing. If he had only carried the gift of dreams without character, the palace would have destroyed him. David did not only need anointing, he needed hidden worship, courage, restraint, battle training, and the ability to wait while being misunderstood. If he had only carried the promise without formation, the throne would have exposed what the field had not yet healed. Esther did not only need beauty or position, she needed courage, timing, restraint, wisdom, and willingness to speak when silence was no longer obedience. If she had only carried favor without courage, her position would have become comfort instead of purpose. Do you see the pattern? God does not only give the gift, He builds the person who can carry the gift. And that is what He has been doing in you. You thought you were just surviving, but you were being trained. You thought you were just waiting, but you were being prepared. You thought you were just being hidden, but you were being protected. You thought you were just losing people, but you were being separated from access that could not honor the assignment. You thought you were just tired, but you were learning the cost of carrying things without boundaries. You thought you were just different, but you were being configured. And now the pieces are beginning to speak to each other. The pain is speaking to the compassion. The silence is speaking to the voice. The rejection is speaking to the discernment. The delay is speaking to the patience. The hidden years are speaking to the assignment. And God is showing you that nothing about your design was accidental. Not even the parts you tried to hide, especially not those parts. Because the very thing you tried to tone down may be the thing heaven is calling forward now. Maybe you tried to tone down your discernment because people said you were too intense. Maybe you tried to tone down your compassion because people took advantage of it. Maybe you tried to tone down your voice because someone punished you for telling the truth. Maybe you tried to tone down your creativity because it did not fit the environment you were in. Maybe you tried to tone down your faith because disappointment made you afraid to believe again. But God is not asking you to bury what He gave you just because someone mishandled it. He is asking you to heal it, to mature it, to protect it, to surrender it, to use it with wisdom, because no one else can carry it in the shape He gave it to you. Not because you are better than everyone, but because you are responsible for your portion. No one else has your exact memories, your exact lessons, your exact scars, your exact grace, your exact way of noticing, your exact way of feeling, your exact way of translating pain into wisdom, your exact way of holding hope after disappointment. That is why your life cannot be reduced to one talent. You are not just a speaker. You are not just a helper. You are not just a sensitive person. You are not just a survivor. You are not just the one who sees. You are a combination, a living arrangement of grace, pressure, tenderness, fire, wisdom, and assignment. And the moment you understand that, you stop asking, "Why am I not like them?" You begin asking, "How do I faithfully carry what God gave me?" That question changes everything, because the first question produces comparison. The second question produces stewardship, and stewardship is where your next season begins. Not visibility first. Stewardship first. Not applause first. Stewardship first. Not proving them wrong first. Stewardship first. Not rushing into every open door first. Stewardship first. Because if you do not learn to protect the combination, people will keep pulling pieces from you without honoring the whole. They will want your light but not your limits. They will want your wisdom but not your rest. They will want your compassion but not your truth. They will want your presence but not your boundaries. They will want your gift but not your God. And that can no longer be the pattern. You are entering a season where God will not only ask you to recognize what you carry, He will ask you to protect it. Because rare gifts do not only need activation, they need stewardship. Now that you know what you carry, the final question is whether you are willing to protect it. And protecting it will not always feel spiritual at first. Sometimes, protecting what God placed in you will look like silence. Sometimes, it will look like distance. Sometimes it will look like not explaining yourself to people who have already decided to misunderstand you. Sometimes it will look like letting a door close without chasing it. Sometimes it will look like choosing peace over proving a point. Sometimes it will look like disappointing people who were comfortable with the version of you that did not have boundaries. And that is where the guilt may rise. Because many chosen ones were trained to believe that love means unlimited access. You were trained to be available, to answer, to carry, to understand, to forgive quickly, to make everyone comfortable, to sense what people need before they even ask, to keep peace even when peace was costing you your own spirit. So when God begins teaching you to protect what He placed in you, it may feel wrong before it feels free. You may feel guilty for pulling back. You may feel guilty for not answering the same way. You may feel guilty for needing quiet. You may feel guilty for no longer explaining every decision. You may feel guilty for becoming less available to people who once had constant access to your energy. You may even feel guilty for growing. And I want to speak to that guilt with tenderness, because it is real. That guilt sits heavy. It makes you question whether you are being selfish. It makes you wonder whether you are becoming cold. It makes you replay old conversations in your mind. It makes you feel like you owe people an explanation for becoming healthier, clearer, and more obedient to God. But listen carefully, chosen one. Boundaries are not betrayal. Distance is not hatred. Silence is not cruelty. Growth is not arrogance. Peace is not selfishness. And protecting what God is building in you is not an apology you owe to anyone. You are allowed to outgrow patterns that kept you small. You are allowed to outgrow conversations that keep pulling you backward. You are allowed to outgrow rooms where your gift is used, but your soul is ignored. You are allowed to outgrow the version of yourself that survived by pleasing everyone. You are allowed to protect the part of you God is still healing. You are allowed to stop handing sacred things to people who only know how to consume them. And you are allowed to become who you were always meant to be, even if someone else preferred who you had to be in order to survive. This is not about becoming hard. It is about becoming whole. Because the next season of your life cannot be built on wrong access. Wrong access is when people want your light, but not your limits. Wrong access is when people want your wisdom, but not your rest. Wrong access is when people want your compassion, but not your truth. Wrong access is when people want your presence, but not your boundaries. Wrong access is when people want the gift, but refuse to honor the God who gave it. And for too long, Some of you have allowed people to pull pieces from you without ever respecting the whole. They came for comfort, but did not care if you were exhausted. They came for advice, but did not care if you were overwhelmed. They came for your listening ear, but did not listen when your spirit was breaking. They came for your light, but became offended when that same light revealed what they did not want to face. They came for the version of you that gave without asking questions, forgave without healing, stayed without peace, and smiled without being seen. But that version of you cannot carry this next season. Not because that version was fake. That version helped you survive. But survival is not the same as stewardship. And God is not only calling you to survive anymore. He is calling you to steward. Steward your peace. Steward your discernment. Steward your words. Steward your compassion. Steward your attention. Steward your yes. Steward your no. Steward the sacred combination He placed inside you. Because if you do not steward it, someone else will try to spend it. And not everyone who recognizes your gift is sent by God. Some people recognize your gift because they want to receive from it. Some people recognize your gift because they want to control it. Some people recognize your gift because they want to benefit from it while keeping you unsure of yourself. Some people recognize your gift, but they do not honor your assignment. That is why discernment matters now more than ever. Not suspicion, discernment. Suspicion makes you afraid of everyone. Discernment teaches you who has access, who has distance, and who has no place in the room where God is forming you. This is why your next season needs a sacred test inside your spirit. Before you say yes, pause inwardly and ask, does this honor what God is building in me? Does this require me to abandon my peace? Does this use my gift while ignoring my humanity? Does this produce clarity? Or does it create confusion? Does this lead me closer to obedience? Or does it pull me back into old patterns? You do not need to speak these questions out loud. You do not need to stop what you are doing. Just let them move through your spirit, like a quiet lamp being carried through a dark hallway. Because when something is assigned, it may stretch you, but it will not require you to betray your soul. When something is assigned, it may challenge you, but it will not constantly bury you under confusion. When something is assigned, it may require courage, but it will not demand that you become false. When something is assigned, there will be grace for it. But when something is only consuming you, it will keep asking for more while giving nothing back to your spirit. It will call your exhaustion loyalty. It will call your silence peace. It will call your self-abandonment love. It will call your fear wisdom. It will call your boundaries selfish. And you must become clear enough to know the difference. Chosen one, every open door is not your door. Every crying person is not your assignment. Every urgent voice is not God. Every opportunity is not alignment. Every invitation is not favor. Some things are tests of whether you still need to be needed. Some things are tests of whether you will abandon peace for approval. Some things are tests of whether you will confuse movement with obedience. Some things are tests of whether you will hand your rare combination to the same kind of environment that almost crushed it before. This time, you must not ignore the check in your spirit. You know that feeling. The quiet hesitation, the small heaviness, the sense that something looks right but does not feel clean. The moment when your heart wants to say yes because you do not want to disappoint someone, but your spirit is already stepping backward. That is not always fear. Sometimes it is wisdom. Sometimes it is protection. Sometimes it is God saying, not this door, not this person, not this timing, not this version of the opportunity, not at the cost of what I am building in you. This is where many people will not understand your obedience. They may think you are being difficult. They may think you have changed. They may think you are acting distant. They may think you are becoming proud. They may think you forgot where you came from. But sometimes, what people call pride is simply the moment you stop being available for misuse. Sometimes, what people call distance is the moment you finally obey God's instruction to come away. Sometimes, What people call coldness is the moment you stop warming rooms that keep freezing your spirit. Sometimes what people call selfishness is the moment you stop sacrificing your assignment for their comfort. Let them misunderstand the boundary if they refuse to understand the burden. You do not need to become cruel. You do not need to become bitter. You do not need to announce your growth like a weapon. You simply need to stop returning to cages that God already opened. Because what God is still forming should not be handed to people who only know how to consume. Your gift is not public property. Your peace is not a community resource. Your compassion is not an endless well for people who refuse to heal. Your discernment is not something you must silence to make others comfortable. Your voice is not something you must bury because someone once punished you for telling the truth. Your light is not something you must dim because someone else prefers darkness. There is a holy way to carry what you carry, and it begins with this. Protect the quiet place where God speaks to you. Not everyone gets access to that place. Not every opinion gets to enter. Not every accusation deserves a response. Not every demand deserves your energy. Not every misunderstanding needs your defense. There are moments when silence is not weakness. It is stewardship. There are moments when distance is not rejection. It is obedience. There are moments when rest is not laziness. It is preparation. There are moments when saying no is not closing your heart. It is keeping your heart alive. This is why you must stop treating your energy as if it is endless. Even Jesus withdrew from crowds. Even those with holy assignment needed mountains, gardens, wilderness, boats, and quiet places. If the Son of God withdrew to pray, why do you think your calling requires you to be constantly available? You were not created to be consumed. You were created to be sent. And what is sent by God must first be sustained by God. That means your life must have places where your gift is not performing, places where your spirit can breathe, places where you are not explaining, fixing, carrying, proving, producing, rescuing, or absorbing, places where you simply return to God and remember that you are not the source. You are a vessel, and a vessel must be filled. This is one reason some of you have felt so dry. Not because you have no gift, because you have been pouring from a place God wanted to heal. You kept giving language while your own heart was confused. You kept giving comfort while your own spirit was tired. You kept giving wisdom while your own mind was crowded. You kept giving hope while your own faith was fighting to breathe. And God is not condemning you for that. He is calling you back into order, because your gift will become more powerful when it is no longer mixed with panic. Your voice will become clearer when it is no longer driven by the need to be accepted. Your discernment will become cleaner when it is no longer tangled with fear. Your compassion will become stronger when it is no longer controlled by guilt. Your presence will become brighter when it is no longer drained by wrong access. This is what stewardship does. It does not reduce the gift. It purifies it. It does not make you less loving. It makes your love more truthful. It does not make you less available to God. It makes you less available to what God did not send. And this is where your whole combination begins to work together. The seer in you notices what is moving beneath the surface. The wounded healer in you understands pain without worshipping it. The light bearer in you brings presence without needing applause. The bridge in you connects people, ideas, and wounds without losing yourself in the middle. The voice in you speaks with truth, but not cruelty. The warrior in you holds ground without becoming hard. The builder in you creates something that can remain after the emotional storm passes. Together, these gifts form a pattern, not a random pattern, a God-shaped pattern, a sacred arrangement, a living testimony that what tried to break you became part of the wisdom you now carry. This is why no one on earth has exactly what you have. Someone may have a voice like yours, but they do not have your scars. Someone may have compassion like yours, but they do not have your discernment. Someone may have strength like yours, but they do not have your tenderness. Someone may have wisdom like yours, but they do not have your story. Someone may have spiritual sensitivity like yours, but they do not have your assignment. And someone may have a similar gift, but not the same combination. That is why you must stop asking God to make you easier to understand. Ask Him to make you faithful. Ask Him to make you clear. Ask Him to make you humble. Ask Him to make you brave. Ask Him to teach you where to pour and where to pause. Ask Him to teach you who to serve and who to release. Ask Him to teach you when to speak and when to stay silent. Ask Him to teach you how to carry rare things without becoming proud, afraid, or exhausted, because the goal is not to become impressive. The goal is to become obedient. The goal is not to prove that you are chosen. The goal is to live in a way that honors the one who chose you. The goal is not to be admired for your gift. The goal is to let the gift become a doorway for healing, truth, restoration, and light. And now, I want to guide you into a quiet inner act. You do not need to move your body. You do not need to close your eyes. You do not need to stop what you are doing if you are not able to. Just let your imagination become a sacred room for a moment. In your mind, picture a table before God, not a table of judgment, a table of restoration. And on that table are the pieces of you that you have been tempted to reject. Your sensitivity is there. Your discernment is there. Your compassion is there. Your voice is there. Your endurance is there. Your memory is there. Your creativity is there. Your ability to feel deeply is there. Your strange knowing is there. Your pain is there too, not as a chain, but as something God is redeeming. Now imagine yourself no longer pushing those pieces away, no longer calling them weakness, no longer calling them too much, no longer calling them proof that you are broken. In your spirit, let each piece be renamed. Sensitivity becomes awareness. Discernment becomes protection. Compassion becomes healing. Your voice becomes assignment. Endurance becomes authority. Pain becomes wisdom. Hiddenness becomes preparation. Delay becomes formation. Difference becomes design. And now imagine God gathering those pieces, not as scattered fragments, but as a whole pattern, a sacred combination, a design that makes sense in His hands. And as He gives it back to you, do not receive it as pressure. Receive it as stewardship, not something you must perform perfectly, not something you must prove to everyone, not something you must rush to display, something you must carry with reverence, something you must protect with wisdom, something you must surrender daily, something you must allow God to keep healing. Let this sentence move through your spirit. I will not reject what God placed in me. Let it move deeper. I will not misuse what God placed in me. Let it become steady. I will protect what God placed in me. And if this message has been speaking directly to your life, write that sentence in the comments. I will protect what God placed in me, not as a performance, as a marker, as a witness, as a quiet agreement with the season God is bringing you into. Because something changes when you stop arguing with your design. Something changes when you stop apologizing for the way God formed you. Something changes when you stop handing your gift to people who only know how to drain it. Something changes when you stop calling yourself behind because your path required more formation. Something changes when you stop confusing being hidden with being forgotten. You were not forgotten. You were being formed. You were not rejected by God. You were being refined. You were not too much. You were carrying many streams. You were not scattered. You were configured. And from this day forward, you must speak to yourself differently. When you feel deeply, do not immediately shame yourself. Ask God how to steward the feeling. When you sense something is wrong, do not immediately dismiss yourself. Ask God for clarity. When you want to help someone, do not immediately abandon yourself. Ask God if this is assigned or only urgent. When you feel pressure to explain your growth, do not immediately hand over your peace. Ask God whether silence is the answer. When you feel afraid of being seen, do not immediately run back into hiding. Ask God whether the fear is warning you or simply proving that the assignment has weight, because visibility can be frightening for a chosen one. You may want breakthrough, but fear what breakthrough will require. You may want doors to open, but fear being exposed. You may want your gift to be used, but fear being criticized. You may want to become who God called you to be, but fear losing the version of life that feels familiar. That fear does not mean you are unready. Sometimes, healthy fear means you understand the weight. People who carry sacred things should not be careless. A person with no reverence for the gift may rush into visibility and call it faith. But you have reverence. That is not weakness. That is wisdom. Still, do not let reverence turn into hiding. Do not let humility become self-erasure. Do not let patience become procrastination. Do not let discernment become fear of movement. Do not let waiting become a place where you bury what God is asking you to offer. There is a time to be hidden, and there is a time to come forward. There is a time to be silent, and there is a time to speak. There is a time to be formed, and there is a time to obey with the formation you have received. You may not feel completely ready, but obedience is rarely born from feeling fully ready. It is born from trust. Trust that God knew what He was doing when He made you sensitive. Trust that God knew what He was doing when He allowed you to develop discernment. Trust that God knew what He was doing when He kept you hidden longer than you wanted. Trust that God knew what He was doing when He removed people you thought you needed. Trust that God knew what He was doing when He refused to let you become a copy. Trust that God knew what He was doing when He gave you the exact combination of gifts that He did. Because no one else can carry your portion for you. Someone else can inspire you. Someone else can walk beside you. Someone else can confirm you. Someone else can teach you. Someone else can pray for you. But no one else can become obedient in your place. No one else can steward your voice. No one else can protect your peace. No one else can surrender your gift. No one else can walk into the room God assigned to your exact combination. That is between you and Him. And this is not meant to scare you. It is meant to awaken you. Because there is a kind of peace that comes when you stop asking why you are different and start asking how to be faithful with the difference. There is a kind of strength that comes when you stop begging the wrong people to recognize you and start letting God define you. There is a kind of clarity that comes when you stop treating your scars like shame and start seeing how God turned them into wisdom. There is a kind of authority that comes when you stop needing every person to understand your path. And there is a kind of freedom that comes when you realize you were never meant to be common. You were meant to be consecrated. Set apart does not mean superior. It means assigned. Different does not mean better. It means specific. Hidden does not mean forgotten. It means protected until the appointed time. And maybe, for you, the appointed time is not a dramatic public moment. Maybe it begins quietly, with one boundary, one honest prayer, one brave conversation, one decision not to go backward, one moment where you stop calling your gift a problem, one day where you choose obedience over approval, one comment where you declare, I will protect what God placed in me, one breath where your spirit finally says, I am done rejecting the way God made me. That is how sacred seasons often begin, quietly, deeply, truthfully, and then everything starts to shift from the inside. Before this message closes, I want to remind you of something I mentioned earlier. If the part about the 7-minute recalibration spoke to you, and you feel led to explore the Genius song, the official link is in the description and pinned comment. Only use that link, because there are fake versions and copycats that do not carry the real brain entrainment technology, the bonuses, or the guarantee, and only explore it if your spirit feels peace about it. This message is not about pressure. It is about stewardship, clarity, and learning how to carry what God placed in you. Because the greatest tool in your life will always be obedience. The greatest protection will always be discernment. The greatest posture will always be surrender. And the greatest confirmation will will always be the peace of God guiding you where noise cannot. Chosen one, God did not make a mistake when He formed you. He did not overdo your heart. He did not make your mind too deep. He did not give you too much sensitivity. He did not waste your tears. He did not ignore your hidden years. He did not abandon you in the wilderness. He did not forget the promise. He was forming a vessel. He was arranging the pieces. He was teaching the gift how to carry weight. He was teaching the voice how to speak without fear. He was teaching the heart how to love without self-destruction. He was teaching the eyes how to see without suspicion. He was teaching the spirit how to obey without needing applause. And now, the pieces are coming together. You are not scattered. You are configured. You are not too much. You are carrying many streams. You are not behind. You are being timed by God. You are not forgotten. You are hidden only until the moment you are meant to be revealed. You are not weak because you feel. You are alive because you still can. You are not foolish because you hope. You are faithful because something in you still believes God is not finished. And I hear this over you. Do not despise the combination. Do not bury the gift because someone mishandled it. Do not silence the voice because someone rejected it. Do not harden the heart because someone abused its kindness. Do not abandon the path because it does not look like anyone else's. Do not mistake preparation for punishment. Do not mistake protection for rejection. Do not mistake hiddenness for failure. God knows exactly what He gave you, and He knows exactly why. May your discernment become clean. May your compassion become wise. May your voice become steady. May your boundaries become holy. May your mind become clear. May your spirit become anchored. May your gift become surrendered. May your path become illuminated, one obedient step at a time. And may every part of you that once felt random begin to recognize the hand of God. The wound, the wisdom, the delay, the preparation, the tenderness, the fire, the silence, the voice, the hiddenness, the calling, all of it has been held by Him. All of it can be redeemed by Him. All of it can be used by Him. No one on earth has the exact combination God gave you. So stop trying to become a copy. Stop apologizing for the design. Stop handing sacred things to careless hands. Stop calling your difference a defect. And start walking like someone who understands that what God placed inside you is not an accident. It is a trust. It is a responsibility. It is a gift. It is an assignment. And from this moment forward, protect what God placed in you.